A mid-card wrestler is someone who doesn't open the show and they very rarely main event a show, but it's usually some stuck somewhere in the middle, and hence that's why the wrestlers are known as mid-carders. Yet so many of these so-called mid-carders have been making names for themselves lately by saying things in interviews that perhaps they shouldn't say or do. So more on that pretty soon. Time also to highlight the latest upcoming events from my favourite promotion. So please like, subscribe and share all the stuff everyone asks you to do for their shows, but please do mine first. All this and more on If You See Kayfabe. G'day wrestling mates. Welcome to episode 54 of If You See Kayfabe. I'm your wrestling mate and your host from Down Under. I'm Southern Joe. Now the main event, funnily enough, will be all about a bunch of mid-card wrestlers and the things that they've been saying and doing lately. But first, being here in Australia, I can only catch AEW and or WWE on TV. The AEW aren't coming to Melbourne anytime soon, and WWE are going to be here in October 25, but the ticket prices are way too high. Only way I can afford to be going is either winning tickets or buy a backstage media pass. So my actual paid promotion is Alpha Pro Wrestling. They are based at the Pipeworks Market at 5 Dunstans Court, Thomastown, not far from where I live. Their shows are 90% action and the rest are promos designed to set up matches. Now, coming up as this episode goes live on the good old YouTube is their next 3 shows. The 11th edition of Thursday Night Fights takes place on Thursday, September 18, and there's 2 matches that I'll be looking forward to. Firstly, there'll be Hugh Sands, the Poison Bullet, taking on Matt Farrow. I've not seen Farrow before, so I'll be interested to see what he brings to Alpha Pro. I'm also looking forward to seeing how Bison and Josh Redfield go teaming up against the Crow family members, Emilio Crow and the grumpy uncle, Johnny Del Rocco. Now, as usual, the Thursday Night Fights, they're followed by 2 Saturday shows. Energy 19 is the matinee show and is free to watch live. It's on during the Pipeworks training hours and features many up-and-coming Aussie talents. A feature bout for me is Tasmanian sensation Doomslayer taking on Will Walker. This free show starts at midday. Then Saturday night, September 20, is the latest feature show called Inevitable. There'll be another stacked card with lots of action, proper pro wrestling of many different flavours, all starting at 7 p.m. at the same location, with tickets starting at $10 for kids, $15 for adults, and family packages also available. Go to Alpha Pro Wrestling on Facebook for booking details, and I'll see you all there.
I am the Melbourne Redneck Bison, and you are watching If You See Kayfabe.
Now, the original inspiration for this episode came from 2 interviews. One was by Bishop Dyer, the wrestler known as Baron Corbin in WWE, and Jake Hager, the UFC fighter turned pro wrestler who was most recently in AEW after quite a few years as Jack Swagger in the WWE. The common theme here was them lamenting how they've been misused over the past little while. Bishop Dyer, who's Corbin on WWE, when you get closer to your contract ending, and I'm 6 months from my contract being up, and I'm not on TV, it's not a coincidence. Then when they present you the contract, they go, you haven't been on TV in 2 months. But yeah, I was 2.5 years prior, and they lowball you. Well, unfortunately, as horror as it sounds, that's the nature of the business. If the WWE thought that Bishop could sell more merch, they'd make him a better offer. Corbin had been in a 12-year stint in WWE and hasn't been figured in properly for quite a while now. And normally the WWE would make an overture of some sort of offer, so even if he did go, they'd make Tony Khan pay overs. But in this case, the WWE aren't even concerned whether Bishop, or Baron, now gets a payday. And Bishop has ended up as a headliner now for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, parlaying his notoriety in WWE and using his experience. The Jack Hager has had a similar sized career in that has spanned both WWE and AEW. He was originally brought in as one of the surprises early on in AEW, but here's how Hager remembers his ending with AEW. And he was speaking with Chris Van Vliet, and Hager revealed his passion for wrestling started to fade after the second Blood and Guts match in Las Vegas against Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli. Once his first AEW contract expired, he felt the renewal process was unfair, one-sided, and showed that Khan no longer wanted him around. It was right after that second Blood and Guts in Vegas with Daniels, Bryan, and Cesaro. My first contract with AEW was up, and after that, the negotiation process was very one-sided. Tell you didn't want me there, and I'll say this every day, and everyone else should do. F Tony Khan. Don't agree with that. He offered me a year and a half. I was like, bro, I did Stadium Stampede twice. Don't act like Stadium didn't put AEW on the map. I was on the debut episode. I was the big spoiler, and you offered me 18 months after all of that? He also criticised Khan, the way he runs the company, especially after the fallout with CM Punk. According to Hager, the roster held a private meeting with Sting, Big Show, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, and Jon Moxley, all addressing the issues, but Khan interrupted in an outburst that left feeling many of them disrespected, according to him. He says, and then who storms in? Daddy's little billionaire. He comes in yelling at us, and I think it was Dax and Cash who didn't like the storyline, so they didn't come to TV that day. Tony was like, listen, I'll put you on a 6-man 6 minutes before the show, and you're going to do it. And all of us felt disrespected. I wish I'd stood up and said more, because you just told Sting you'll throw him in a 6-man with 6 minutes notice, and then you're going to honour him for all this, for his retirement? Now, much of what Hager said about the meeting has been debunked, mainly by FTR themselves, but he hasn't popped a rating for quite a while. He's never been hot like Danielson, FTR, or MJF. Both Dyer and Hager, while good-sized athletes that can move decently, but neither have an X factor that will help them become a big draw. Now, there'll be an overriding opinion of all the guys talking about this from me at the end. So just as that noise blows down, here comes Rusev Miro looking to make a name for himself. He returns to WWE as Rusev and gets a couple of wins, but he's on a crowded roster. Now, while he looks a very impressive athlete and has a good look, and would have made a great monster heel, by the way, for Hogan, if only Miro was peaking in the 1980s. Rusev also lacks X-Factor star quality. Then we have Matt Riddle, the bro-tastic former MMA wrestler who tagged with Randy Orton to form RK Bro. But recently, Riddle was embroiled in an alleged no-show scandal where he was booked to work in Barnsley, England for a charity wrestling show. Riddle took another booking instead and wasn't going to give back his sizable deposit advance he received for the charity booking until the story went viral. Now, instead of letting things die down, Riddle seemed to double down on what the UK promotion, which is known as GWK, had already debunked, and then taking AJ Lee and her husband CM Punk. Now, I'm not going to dignify his claims by repeating them here. Mr. Riddle needs to get his life back on track. I know he has had his substance abuse issues, and I truly don't know his status on that end. But even though I'm not a fan of this guy's work, I hope he finds solace someday. Then you have Ronda Rousey. She was a huge deal in women's UFC, so while I'm not a fan of UFC, especially women's UFC, Ms. Rousey had the tools to have an extended run as a top women's wrestler. Unfortunately, she has left herself as a mid-carder by the fact that she won't play ball, not fully understanding the worked nature of pro wrestling. So the baddest woman on the planet recently said that she couldn't understand why WWE booked her to face Alexa Bliss, who was explained to her she was a top merchandise seller at the time. The implication was the only reason Bliss was given a match with Rousey because of the merchandising. Rousey also talked about refusing to tap out to Becky Lynch. Hello? Top merch seller means that you are drawing money. That's what wrestlers used to measure each other by when their payoffs were dictated solely by how big the attendance was that night that they wrestled. If she's going to use that old size of the dog in the fight crap, then she needs to go back and see little old Mr. Miyagi fighting and then count how many Karate Kid movies they made and how much money that they all drew. Kurt, Kurt Angle had the same problem about being defeated by lesser skilled athletes. After all, he won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. And he learned that he could make more money by playing the business properly. He has since become a two-time Hall of Famer. All in all, for different reasons, Riddle, Rousey, Dyer, Hager, and Rusev will only ever be mid-carders in either WWE or AEW. And they should be happy with that, especially with each of these guys. They have had up to a decade or more of big money payoffs that the majority of their fans wouldn't see in a lifetime. If everyone was a special attraction, then no one is a special anymore. Final thoughts on this is that basically you look at fly-by-nights that did make it as main eventers like Braun Strowman and Ryback. Look where they are in this day and age. Some of these mid-carders who had extended runs. Then you look at some of my other mates like Casey Thompson, who was an enhancement talent for 20 years. And he's happy with the living he made. It's great to have the ambition to say, yep, I'm going to be a top draw. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'd like to think that I'd be the top podcaster or YouTuber in the wrestling space, but is that going to happen? Who knows? I've got a long way to even catch up to even people that are doing half the business that people like Jim Cornette and Conrad Thompson are doing. Anyway, that's enough from me. Till we meet again next time, this is your wrestling mate from down under, and this is Uru.